Ali tutamanda win kaibia ukuna, ñuka shutiman Nina Walinga Sarayaku llaqtamanta shamushkani Karu Sachamanda. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nina Walinga. I am Quechua from Sarayaku, and I have come a long way from the Ecuadorian Amazon.
Ali tutamanda, ñuka shutiman Elena Walinga, ñukas Sarayaku llaqtamanta ani, Karu Sachamanda shamushkanchi ishkandi pura, ishkandi ñaña pura. Good morning, everyone. My name is Elena Walinga, and we are two sisters from the Quechua people of Sarayaku in the Ecuadorian Amazon. We come from a land where we drink our water straight from the creeks, where we grow our food, where we go hunting and fishing straight from the water and from the forest. Growing up, we grew up climbing in trees, swimming in the water, going to the waterfalls. And our home is where the Amazon water system is born. So everything that happens to our home in Ecuador affects the entire Amazon and the entire world.
Our land is alive. Everything from the stones to the trees, the small animals, the anaconda, the jaguar, the materials that we build our houses with, the river, everything is alive. And when our relatives and our elders pass away, they don't die. They transition, they transform, and they go back home to the rivers, to the lagoons, to the big trees. So the forest is our family. It's our home. It's where our relatives continue living. So when you kill the forest, you kill our family, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our ancestors. When I was about 8 years old, just right before my little sister Helena was born, an oil company called CGC, together with Chevron, violently entered our community of Sarayaku. And I remember this so vividly because although I didn't speak Spanish, I was in a meeting in the community, and all the women were upset, and I could feel their fear. I could feel and see their anger. And there was the representative of the oil company trying to convince the leaders of our community to sell our land and license to this oil company. 140,000 hectares of pristine rainforest, home to our family and our relatives for $10,000. It sounds like a joke, right? But it's true. That's what they were offering us. And if we divided that, that was $10 per person. That's how much they valued our lives and our future. But I was a girl with dreams and hopes, like everyone. And I couldn't understand why my life and the lives of my cousins and my grandparents and my parents and all my friends was worth so little to these people. to the oil company, to the government. But I took a vow. I promised myself as a little girl that I would not let this happen. I would not let them destroy my home, destroy my future, destroy my hopes and my dreams and those of everyone else in my community. The company came with militaries provided by the Ecuadorian government. They cut down our sacred trees, our relatives. They buried 1,400 kilograms of high explosive pentalites and blew up the ground, scaring away the spirits of our ancestors. They threatened to rape little girls. They threatened our leaders at gunpoint. They paid the judges. They tortured my uncles and relatives. This was about 20 years ago, but it continues happening today. After years of battling the oil company and the government, we took the government to court.
Ten years after this happened, the people of Sarayaku, the same people that had been persecuted, tortured, the same people that were fighting, found themselves in the Inter-American Court in Costa Rica in 2012. A small community from the Amazon with about 1,000 people living in the community had taken two of the biggest powers in the country to an international court. The government and an oil company. The government, when they entered our community, had violated our human rights. They had violated our right to say, no, this is our home, you cannot come here. Caso Sarayaku, the Sarayaku case in 2012 was a landmark victory and created a legal precedent not only for indigenous people in the Amazon and Ecuador, but across Latin America, changing the fate of indigenous people's rights forever. But the victory was not only legally. It was also so important to see that it is actually possible. A small community in the rainforest that before had almost no support actually could do this. It is possible. And this is so important to show the world that we can protect the Amazon rainforest, but it can only happen if we give and permit the custodianship that indigenous people already have over our own territories. The victory in 2012 was everything that we could have dreamt of when we were children, when we were seeing all these things happening. But the reality is that communities like Sarayaku exist all over the Amazon. The threats that indigenous communities have, they're every day, and they're on every territory. After this, a huge oil boom began in Ecuador, and the Yasuni National Park started to being exploited for oil. The heart of the Amazon was in danger. In Yasuni, We do not only have indigenous people, but we also have indigenous people in voluntary isolation. Indigenous people that have chosen to stay in the Amazon rainforest, to stay there on their lands. And right now, the government and the oil companies are going further and further into the Amazon, getting closer and closer to these people.
So when one problem is out of the way, there is always another challenge around the corner. Always. Oil, mining, road building, cutting down trees, climate change. So in 2020, just when the pandemic hit Ecuador and the world, our community suffered a massive flood that washed away houses, schools, our food, crops, chickens, everything. And for months, my people walked hungry. We're talking about the most biodiverse place on Earth, where we had never been hungry before. We had never seen these floods before. And what caused the floods? Climate change. What causes climate change? Fossil fuel extraction. The same oil, the same companies that extract the oil from the Amazon are the ones responsible for climate change, responsible for the violation of our rights and our lands, and for the suffering of our people as climate change hits, as the floods hit. The government had no response. So once again, just like when the oil companies entered our community, the people mobilized. The women mobilized and provided support and aid to the different communities that were suffering because of the pandemic, because of the floods, because the floods did not only affect my community, but various communities along the river basin.
At the same time as the floods were happening in my community, in our part of the Amazon, and while the pandemic was going on, one of the worst oil spills the Ecuadorian Amazon has seen was happening in a neighbor community. Can we just take a moment to look at this? This is what goes into our rivers. This is what the animals are going to be walking on. This is our home being completely destroyed. The oil spill was in one of the Ecuadorian Amazon's main rivers, Coca and Napo. As I said, what happens in Ecuador, what happens in the headwaters affects the entire Amazon. In just 2 days, this oil had reached Peru. The people there that also happened to be our relatives sent us pictures of how children had rashes on their bodies. Because when the oil spills happened, the government and the oil company did not even inform the people that it had occurred. This is happening while a pandemic is going on. And because our main source of water is our creeks and rivers, people could no longer drink water. They could no longer take baths in the river. We hunt and fish, but the animals drink the same water as we do. The fish swim in the same rivers. This is a complete violation of our life, of our lifestyle, of our future. We felt the need of tracing extractivism. Why is this happening? Where is it going? 50% of Amazon crude oil went to California in 2020. And in September, the Ecuadorian government is planning on auctioning off the rest of the Amazon to oil companies. So right now, we find ourselves in a time where we need to make sure that that does not happen. We need to prevent other oil spills from happening. And as Nina said, climate change is already here. We cannot continue extracting oil. We cannot continue destroying the Amazon. We cannot continue killing indigenous children, indigenous people. Indigenous people are safeguarding the Amazon. Indigenous people are safeguarding the planet by doing so. So we need to make sure that we show allyship and support also. I don't know, how many of you have phones with you here? Okay, I thought so.
Great.
There is something that you can do right now to support this. As I said, the oil that comes from our home comes straight to California. You can scan the QR code, sign a petition that urges the governor of the state of California to stop oil extraction and to make sure that there is no further expansion in Amazon crude. Thank you.